Welcome to Painting Challenge. This is our third session, and this is going to be kind of a fun, little bit easier painting than what we've done before, but it'll give us an opportunity to explore glass and the theory behind it. I've prepped my board with black, transferred the design on with white graphite, and I'm ready to paint. The grapes are just like the grapes that we did in the last lesson, except these colors we'll put in side by side. And there's no swatches in this lesson because these are all just pure colors. So if you teach, this is a great project to teach because there's no mixing involved. So I'm putting down crimson. You can use alizarin crimson or quin crimson depending on which brand of paint you're using. And then in the upper 1/4, I'm placing just red. Still working with an upper right hand light source. You could use a small filbert to do this, a small flat. Putting medium in each grape. Again, just as we did before, just assuming that they're independent, that they're whole. And what that really means is we're not going to worry about cast shadows. Now I'm coming in with, you can use either dioxazine purple or make your own dioxazine purple with ultramarine blue and crimson. And just laying in the values. I'll blend at the end. A little bit of dark on the right side just to help roll that back. I'm going to wipe my brush, and I am keeping my brush half on one value and half on the other for the medium and the lighter meeting. We'll come back just as we did in our previous lessons and add shines, shadows, details, all those characteristics. So at this moment, our goal is strictly to create some form. So there is the light, medium, and dark of our grapes, just as diagrammed for you. I'm going to go back and make sure that graphite line is covered. Alright, let's just jump right in and paint our glass. This is diagrammed for you, step by step, an illustration, and of course you'll see an illustration here as well. Working with an upper right hand light source, and so this is our primary shine. It's where the light is striking the glass directly, and then because there's nothing to interrupt it, we will have a shine on the inside of the glass on the left side. Now you can come in and smooth this slightly with your finger. You can come in with a mop brush, a clean brush that you don't mind scrubbing with. Because the first application of paint has to be diffused, it has to be dispersed out a certain amount, and then we can come back in the center, and I hope you can see that I'm placing the second application of paint. It's thicker, but it is contained within that first application of paint. And in the back, it's just that much farther away, so it's not going to have as light or as bright of a shine. And initially, the best thing to do is put the shines in, and then come back, push, pull, look at it, balance it out, whatever it might need. Notice that those shines just exactly followed the outside edge of the glass. We're going to put in now the pass-through light on the lower left section. Oh, before we do that, on this first step, we are told to, by me, put some light on the stem as well. On the right side, exactly following that outside edge. Now we're going to come in and put in our pass-through light. And here you can use warm white, you could use blue tint. But this is light, and you can put this right on the outside edge or slightly in. It does not matter. But what this is just as the name implies, it is light that is passing through. There's nothing to stop the light, so it's going to pass through on the lower left since light travels in a straight path. It's drawn in a triangular shape because that is how on a round object pass-through light occurs. Of course, on the outside edge you want it to be crisp, but then it can be slightly diffused as it comes into the wine glass. Everything that you paint should have a value change, meaning how light or dark something is. So we want it to be a little bit lighter on that outside edge. We have a similar occurrence down on the stem. Triangular in shape. And again, a value change. On number 3 says with a 10-aught liner, add a shine on the front of the bowl and on the foot. You could use a liner or you could use your spotter brush. Either is acceptable. But it's so interesting, and if you pull out a wine glass tonight and look, there's always these just kind of concentric lines. And these will stay pretty much at eye level. But these lines go down the stem. This just actually occurs. I want it to be, again, the sparks of light on that right hand side. Back and making sure that it is the lightest on the right. And then we can also come in and place some light on the bottom, on the foot section. And this could be a little bit thicker. We don't want it to be just a line because this is actually where the glass is sitting. A bit of a value change. Now we could come in and add just some skim shines, and these are shines that are just to show that there's a front to the glass, and this is just almost a film that you put on. And sometimes I find this tricky to explain or teach, but it's just a dirty brush that says this is the front of the glass in through here. Now we need to come in and add some of the thickness of the glass. And you can use a liner, you can use a flat, but we're going to add some thickness without trying to make it look outlined. Again, it'll have to stay crisp on the inside, on the outside, and maybe a little diffused as it moves into the glass. A little skim shine in the middle. I'm coming back and adding a few things, just because as you get more of the wine glass developed, you start seeing things that could be augmented. Take this tape off the top. It sure helped us keep everything straight. Setting my brush down first where I want it to be the lightest, which is definitely here where our primary shine was, and then scooching it toward the left. And I have a wobble right there, and I will go back and clean that up. But going back and adding a brighter shine here, a little bit brighter here, and through there. Come in on that side and create a stronger shine. So that is our wine glass, all of the different steps. We will come back and add a little bit more when it's dry. So I think we could do one more thing before we dry this and move on. Let's put the stem in, and kind of the same stem idea that we've been doing. I'm going to base the stem in. You can base it in with green or you can base it in with brown, just depending on how you want your grapes stems to be. But I'm just basing this in with some burnt umber. Shading the left side with a little bit of black. And then you can highlight slightly in on the right side with some warm white. Now our grapes look like they have a reason to be so close to each other. So let's go ahead and dry this, or allow this to dry, and come back in and we'll put in our cloth and add our final shines and reflected color. My painting is dry, and I'm going to start off by adding some blue tint to function as yeast mold. I have my brush loaded, and this is just irregular and relatively sparse. And this is that fermentation process that we talked about in the previous painting. And it happens on all fruit, you just really happen to see it on these dark objects. It gives it a little bit of a frost. Then we can come in and, just like on our glass, we have pass-through light. And you can use orange, you can use blue tint, you can use red. It has to be exactly opposite of the light source, and so this goes on the lower left, just like the wine glass. There isn't one, well, put a little bit up in there just to maybe have a glow in that area. Like I said, you can use red, you can use orange, you can use blue tint, you can experiment and see what works. This is definitely making it look as if there's light passing through the lower left section on each grape. I'm going to come back in and add a warm white highlight in the upper 1/4 of each grape. I want to blend that down just a little bit. Blot it a little bit also, just to pull it away. This grape on the right is catching the most amount of light because it is on the right side and it's in the front, so a little bit brighter shine. Of course, we can maybe shadow a little bit where the grapes are touching each other. Notice I'm making the shadow curve following the curve of that back grape. Darkening where the stem meets the grape, then it looks like a unit. Let's add some of this reflected color onto our glass, because otherwise it looks a little isolated. Remember, everything is dry, so I can just go right on top. And I have my brush loaded with crimson. I'm just looking at the photo and placing the color. But these are the areas that usually need just a little bit of interest, because generally there's nothing going on in those areas. So we can come in and add some interest. A little trick that I like to do is, if I can't get the color to move, I'm picking up black, oil black, and adding that, and that helps it move a little bit. Because we're just working on this acrylic background, which, you know, doesn't really help things move at all. And now coming back with the warm white. Adding sparks of color, especially on top of the reflected light that we just put on, just so it has a value change. And then going back through one more time and sparking the light bright areas that might need it. This will be the lightest because it's in the upper 1/4. This is actually second in through here. What we need to put in to finish this up is a tablecloth, because otherwise, well, it needs to be sitting on something. And so coming in still with just warm white, and I'm thinning it down. You can thin it down with whatever you thin your paint down with. I'm just thinning it down with some Mona Lisa paint thinner. And I'm going to fill in this area. And I didn't paint it as such, but you can have this grape hanging over. This grape is definitely hanging over. And you're going to fill yours in. I'm just going to let mine trail off, you know, because I'm sure you get the idea. But, you know, fill in this entire section with just a wash of the warm white. I'm going to come in with, I'm just going to come in with a mop, but that mop seems to have a little bit of color in it. So I'll just come in with a portion of a paper towel and smooth. We want this to be, we don't want it to be very a stark white. Otherwise it will distract from what's going on up above. Now you can come in at this point with black, or you can wipe out some more of the tablecloth. But we want to have the illusion that these hanging down grapes are casting a shadow to the lower left onto this tablecloth. And the shadow really, because of our light source, it goes from the midpoint over. So the midpoint of the grape and then over. I'm going to extend this grape down because I really like the shadows. You can put a little bit of darkness, as I was doing it, underneath the wine glass. And if your cloth needs it, you can put a little bit dark on the top of the cloth to help kind of roll that back. And then of course, as I mentioned earlier, if need be, you can come back in with black and lose any edges. Maybe a shine did not diffuse out. Maybe it got a little cloudy. You can come in with oil black and clean up anything that you might want to clean up. And one thing that I like, a kind of a favorite trick, is that the middle of a water drop or a wine glass or anything that's transparent, the center is going to be just a little bit darker. And at this point, this is going to look really dark because, or really apparent, because it's on a matte acrylic background, and then we have the shiny oil. But when this is varnished, it'll definitely settle in. So that is how to paint glass and some grapes. Remember, it's just an optical illusion, and the less that you add to the composition, the better. In other words, just add as little as you possibly can to create the illusion of the glass. Because the mind's eye will connect things, and it's just a fascinating illusion. So I'm going to continue to add a little bit more black to the center here. So get ready for our next painting.